before we meet the Mizrahi Jews, who are the true Shemite Palestinian Jews, we're going to meet the Hamite Jews. Did you know that there are Hamite Jews and Christians? So I've shown you this image before. I'll show the paper again. These are the genes of the Hamites. And these Hamites can be Christian or Jew. And they look identical, right? Check them out. Check this dude out. Looks like his cousin over here. Maybe twin brother even. How about this guy? Similar too, right? Same genes, different religion. Religions are religions, genes are genes. Jew is not a genetic situation. So where did the word Mizrahi come from? Well, they're never called Mizrahi Jews until the European Ashkenazi Gomerites moved in the 40s, I guess. I don't know exactly when the name was given, but notice the skin color of the Middle Easterners. Notice the skin color of the European descenders. Now, she is of European descent. And this is a CBN deal. I've shown this before when Stuckey said Jesus was not Palestinian. And according to Stuckey, that means intersectionality, wokeness, and idolatry. People who called Jesus a Palestinian, despite the fact that the geographical region didn't exist until after his death, total bullshit. Meet Herodotus, who died in 425 BC. This is Herodotus's map. Palestine, Syria, Phoenicia. Up here, I'm not sure what they call the Anatolia, Asia Minor, whatever. It's Turkey now, right? Okay, and over here is Iraq, and down here is Egypt. Palestine existed before 425 BC. That means that in the Bible fairy tale that never happened, that Stuckey believes is true, Jesus was a Palestinian Jew. And so, you've got to ask these crazy Christians if they don't know this, if they don't know basic history that's clearly identifiable, what else don't they know as a consequence of their prefrontal cortex inhibition that I outlined in previous videos? So who are the Mizrahi Jews? Jews have a separate heritage, which means they are distinctly different genetically. Mizrahi, okay, that's Eastern or Oriental. This name was given to them upon the creation of the modern state of Israel. This did not exist beforehand. Now notice how they look. They look similar to the Hamites, but a little different. So the earliest communities of the original Palestinian Jews, late antiquity. So these were the originals in the Middle East. According to the Bible, Japheth populated Europe, Ham populated Africa, Shem populated the Middle East. Mizrahi Jews, even though it's a pejorative, are the true Shemite, of course, made up in almost 1800 by the European Ashkenazis, or the European Gomerites. I don't think it was the Ashkenaz. So we know that Shem is Middle East. Now we also know that the Bible is made up, but the Bible is regularly invoked by by governments around the world. So the Bible is in play. This information, therefore, is in play. So here you can see these are Gomerite. They're European. We're going to go with Gomer because of what I did before. Gomerite, Japhethite, Gomerite, non-Jews. Japhethite, Gomerite, Ashkenazi Jews. Hamite Jews. And Middle Eastern Shemite Mizrahi Jews. Totally different. Totally different. Totally different. Here you can see Ashkenaz, blue, dark blue. Mizrahi, red. And you got some dark blue here. Of course, some Ashkenaz live here. And here's the Ashkenaz. Really simple, straightforward. So if Israel was created for the Jewish people, why did these guys get booted? 3 Mizrahi Jews reading a copy of the Bible at a refugee camp. Why were they booted? Why were they in a refugee camp? Well, because we know when the Europeans rolled in, the locals were booted out. So here they are again. You can see who they are. These are the Mizrahi. Very clear, distinctly clear. These are Shemite Jews that look identical to Shemite Muslims and Christians. Now I know there's no such thing as this, but because the Bible is invoked, these words are in play. It's really funny because people talk about anti-Semitism all along, but these are the true Semites. These are the true Semites because they are Shemites. They are Middle Easterners compared to these guys who I have great respect for. Now, so you can see this guy kind of looks like, this guy could be, these two guys here are kind of cousin with Jerry Seinfeld, right? So each one of these Ashkenazi Gomerite Jews, they all tell us that nothing about the Old Testament was known until about 300 BC. And Dr. Adler makes it very clear that the Torah was pushed upon the Judeans by the Hasmonean Greeks. So you can see how different these guys look, right? You can see completely different ethnic background. No way these guys here are Middle Easterners. I'm not saying that they say they are. But this is what we're looking at. You can see the Ashkenazi Gomerite Jews and the Shemite Jews. And I say Ashkenazi Gomerite because you've got Japheth, who had Gomer, who had Ashkenaz. So that's the scenario. Now this is Derek from Myth Vision. You can see he looks like he's a cousin with Adler. Now this guy's a Gomerite. This guy's an Ashkenazi Gomerite. No big deal. And these are the Shemites. Totally different ethnic groups. Any one of these ethnic groups can pick any one of the religions, or they can become Buddhist or Taoist or Shintoist, Confucianist, Hindus, Muslim. Well, we already have all these. Yeah, Muslim. So it doesn't make any difference. Ethnicity is not religion, and that's what has been put upon the world. And it has been put upon the world by the Gomerites, the European Gomerites that decided to take over and engage, because Japheth and Gomer, or the sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Tubal and Togarmah, who's a son of Gomer, and then Meshech, they're the ones that are going to invade from the north. Now the big player seems to be Gomer, and here's how it played out. So we know that King George's first cousin, who looks like King George himself, twin brothers practically, these two are first cousins of King George. They were killed, murdered in 1917 by the Bolsheviks, right? By the Ashkenazi Gomerite Bolsheviks. It's amazing. Gomerites killing Gomerites. So, murdered in 1917 after their first cousin, King George in England, denied their request for asylum in England. So these guys were killed at the same time that Ezekiel 38 via Gomer began their invasion of the Middle East. Gog and Magog, the modern version of Gog and Magog, the hyperstitioned Agrigor version of Gog and Magog that's taking place right now, began with the Sykes-Picot swindle in 1916. That is when British Gomerite took over Palestine and Iraq. And now this is what I'm calling it, Gomerland. So you can see the difference. We've got our Gomerites, we've got our Ashkenazi Gomerites, we've got our true Shemites, and the true Shemites are of the Palestinian Shemite lineage of Jesus. There they are. And they have been booted out along with all the others, well, to varying degrees, and it's been modified since then. But these are the true Shemites. They are the Middle Eastern Jews, not the Europeans that have moved in with the military might of Gomer.